Hey folks, it's Mike, the Travelin Ham, and today we're going to take a look at the TidRadio H3. You ready? Let's go.
Okay folks, here's the deal.
I'm at the bottom of the Grand Canyon. This is going to be a special one. We're way up this mountain. This is the operating station here.
Kilo Echo Zero Victor India Mike Park Department.
The traveler has come.
It was a huge, beastly, bulging man. Plates were from Kansas.
About a year ago, I did a review on the predecessor to this radio, the TD-H3. And we're going to take a look at the latest version and see what we think. But let's start with an unboxing. Unboxed. Radio, belt clip, lanyard, charging cord, USB-C, and the cradle, also USB-C. USB-C port right there on the butt of the battery. Feels pretty good in hand. I've heard a lot of people say that exact phrase, and it fits. This is a nice looking, nice feeling radio. Presents itself pretty well. So when we compare it to the HD8, the 8-watt radio, the first thing that jumps out to me are the different sizes of the buttons. I'm just getting old enough that these things are really starting to need some help, these eyes of mine. And you can tell this keypad on the H3, that's this one right here, is significantly smaller than the H8. So there's a downside right off the bat in comparing the two. Now I can read it. It is substantially more difficult than these than the bigger buttons that can be afforded on this much chunkier radio. So let's deal with the biggest difference between the two, and that's the power. The newer HD3 is a 5-watt radio. The HD8 is a 10-watt radio. Now you might say to yourself, wow, twice the power. That seems really great. But if you check out my video on the HD8, we did a little test on those 10 watts compared to another 5-watt radio and found that there wasn't that much difference. And in fact, in radio in general, doubling the power is going to do a lot less than you would imagine. Now, it's not useless. Some people get way too carried away with comparing power, and they'd say if you use half the power or a tenth of the power, you're not going to notice any difference at all. And I don't agree with that. There is a difference. It's not nearly as much as you would imagine when you're simply doubling the power. What we found when we went repeater hunting with the HD8 is that if there was a signal that could not be reached with the 5-watt, it probably also could be reached with the 10. But if there was something that was borderline with the 5-watt, the 10-watt might be able to get through. So a doubling of the power is a little bit overrated. Now, if I wanted to have a substantial increase in power, I would go from a 5-watt handheld to a 50-watt mobile radio. Then you're going to see a real difference. The only other reason I could figure that 10 watts would be a big advantage over 5 is if you're operating in a group doing God knows what, there's a bunch of you with the radio and one is in a clear leadership position and you want one to be able to override the others. If there's one person that you don't want to be overridden. When you're talking on FM, there's a thing called the capture effect. And this radio is going to hear and it's going to play the strongest signal that it hears. It's not like my HF radios that I use for my longer distance ham radio contacts. If I have 2 or 3 people all calling me at the same time on my HF radio on single sideband, I will hear all 3 simultaneously. These aren't going to do that. This is going to hear the strongest one. So if you have one person in your group that you want to be the one heard, maybe that's a good reason to have that person with the 10-watt radio. So that aside, you know, the biggest advantage that the H8 seems like it would have actually goes away. All right, so let's take a quick walk around the radio here. Buttons all seem pretty straightforward. You've got that button there, which is the Bluetooth and the menu button. This one will toggle us between VFO and memory select. We've got our up and down buttons to tune around. Simple numeric keypad. And as we learned with the H8, we've got shortcuts for the menu selections. So if I want to change my power settings, I can just go menu 2, and I'm right at the power settings. We'll only do low on this channel. That's interesting. Okay, so here on the side, we have our headphone and microphone jacks. There's also a USB-C port here for programming. Remember, the charging port is right there. On the sides here, we've got PTT on the main channel here. I can do PTT on the B channel here. And then this one operates the stupid light. I've yet to figure out when I would ever need that. Carry a flashlight. If you think this is handy, you need to carry one of these. Once you've trained your brain that you have a flashlight on you, you find you will use it at all times of the day. If I'm looking at any kind of container in broad daylight and it's kind of dark in there, I automatically whip this guy out, and it's a big help. If I'm looking at something in the engine of my truck, let's say, even in the daytime, I use this all the time. Forget this. Carry this. Okay, and the battery we access by pulling this guy down here, and then he just slides off like so. FCC information there. This is a 2500 milliamp hour battery, 18.5 watt hours. And there's your FCC information right there. So that's 25. What is it on this one? Can I remember how to get this one off? Well, no is the answer to that question. There we go. Also, 2,500 milliamp hours. Isn't that interesting? These two batteries have exactly the same spec. H3, 2,500 milliamp hours. H8, 2,500 milliamp hours. Huh, interesting. That also means this is going to die a lot quicker if you're using that power compared to that radio. All the more reason to not use 10 watts. I like this little catch device better here. You can see that on the butt end of the H3, so that's easier to pop out than this thing on the bottom of the H8 that you really gotta pry off. That seems like that's gonna bust here at some time, but it really takes some effort to get that off of there. Thank God I don't have to do that very often. I do have this guy set up in GMRS mode. It can be either in ham radio, GMRS, or what it calls normal mode. Normal mode is just a combination of the two. I can use it either in GMRS mode or ham radio mode. But for reasons that I'll discuss later, I'm using this as a GMRS radio. All right, now it's got a pretty slick couple functions here where I can press and hold on one, and that'll bring up scan frequency. I can scan for signals, and I can scan if there's a CTCSS code within that signal. That's pretty cool. I can also hold the 3 button and scan all the channels. Also handy. So since I have this set up in GMRS mode, it has all of the frequencies, all the channel frequencies automatically loaded for me. You can see I can go up through channel 22 here, and then it'll go to repeater 1, which is actually the same frequency as channel GMRS channel 15. So you see here I'm at 462 550. So if I go down to channel 15, voila, 462 550. But this gives you the ability to be able to set your radio differently if you're wanting to hit a repeater on that channel. I can use memory channel number 23 to hit a repeater and have CTCSS tones programmed in there to operate the repeater, whereas if I just want to operate on channel 15, talking simplex to someone in my family, we can use this setting on channel 15. So it separates those two, which is nice. If you go up beyond that,
Sunday, sunny. Unseasonably warm with highs in the mid-80s. Southwest winds 5 to 10 miles an hour.
we get the NOAA weather.
10 to 15 miles
So that's
an
cool to
hour.
have in there automatic too. And of course there's 10 of those. And I travel quite a bit, so I never quite know which one I should listen to, but having these 10, I can just scan through them real quick and see whichever one's the loudest. In this case, the only one I can really hear is 1.
Highs around 70.
So that's likely the nearest one.
Lows in the mid-40s.
One of the things I don't like about this is how frequently the screen goes to sleep. It does not take long for that to go to sleep, and that kind of drives me crazy. All right, let's get a comparison of the menus on these two models. Got the H8 in this hand, the H3 in this one. We're just gonna go up through the menu and see what the differences are. Now for 0 through 9, they're the same selections, but they're in slightly different order. So, oh man, these things just go to sleep way too fast. So a few of them will be the same, but you notice there's just a few differences in the overall order. Then from 10 on, they're going to be exactly the same. So your H3 is going to be darn near identical to the H8 until we get to 46. 46 on the H3 continues, and you see the H3 has gone back to squelch. So there's new features on the H3 now. There's scramble. This mode is for searching for CTCSS tones. Then there's a few more features in here that are pretty niche and, not something that the general user is going to need. DTMF and stuff like that. But this is an interesting one. Scramble on. So we're not allowed to obscure our message or its meaning on radio. But there are instances where proprietary digital encoding is allowed, and this seems like maybe it'd be in that vein. I don't know. It seems like we're treading on some gray area here, but let's see what that sounds like. If I get in there, okay, it is set to on. I think these are on the same channel here. Let's see, he's on channel 1. Let's put him on channel 2. All right, I'm going to leave him right there. I'm going to go outside, and I'm going to talk into this, and you'll hear a scramble. All right, we're outside here. I got my H3. We're gonna test the scramble function. Testing, testing, testing. The quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog. Testing, testing, testing. All right, we're gonna test a new feature here now. I've got this decipher code on, and then we're gonna scan and see. I'm going to transmit on the same channel with the H8, and we'll see if the H3 picks up on the CTCSS that I programmed it with. Okay, so here we go. I've got decipher code on. I think that's what DEC stands for. Maybe it's decode code. I got decipher code on the H3, and I'm going to transmit on the H8. And I've got a code on here, so let's see what it does. So I got to hold 1, goes to this screen, and look at that. It picked up the code. Now I can store that. Somehow, I suppose. Okay, so let's try that again. Let's put it on a totally different channel and see what happens, all right? I'm going to hold and press 1. I get this screen. And that time I got the word success. I didn't get that last time. Maybe that'll let me store it now. Yeah, I stored it. Did I store it on 8? I did. Well, I can always reset that. I can go back and go back into GMRS mode, and I can reset that. This is a good note right here, actually, because if you do this, push to talk, hold asterisk, and turn this on, you can change the mode. I'm going to pick 2 GMRS, and that's going to erase everything I've done and put it in GMRS mode. You will be erasing everything you've done. Yes. I want that.
Welcome.
Let's see. So I'll go.
Channel mode.
So channel 8 should be fixed now, and it is.
9.
So there we go. 2 lessons at once. But that's pretty slick to be able to hold that. And then whatever you decipher, if you click store, it'll put it on channel 2. But that's pretty cool to be able to listen to a transmission and to be able to grab the CTCSS code out of there. That's pretty slick. So let's cover a few general things here while I put the... I'm going to put the belt clip on the back of this thing. The general consensus that I've gathered from watching several videos on all different types of TID radios is that they're generally a pretty good GMRS radio. And they're a little lacking when it comes to the ham radio bands. 2 meters. 2 meters and 70 centimeters. So I don't have any real serious testing equipment that I carry with me. I don't own that kind of stuff because I live in a 300 square foot RV with a wife and 2 kids and a little dog. I don't have spare room or weight to carry specialized tools like things to test the spectral purity of a handheld radio or any radio. I'm not going to demonstrate that for you today. I would invite you to watch any other of an assortment of videos that do exactly that. Generally, what you're going to find is this radio works plenty good on 70 centimeters on GMRS frequencies. When you get to 2 meters, the performance of the TID radios goes down a little bit in that they get more spurious emissions. And it seems kind of hit and miss in all the tests that I watch. Some do fine, some fail. Of course, you could always listen to the 2 meter band for a ham radio on one of these devices, and that would be fine. If this was my primary VHF radio and I wanted to get more serious into transmitting repeaters and just using this to transmit more frequently and communicate with people outside of my own little group, I might look at upgrading to some of the Japanese radios, Yaesu, ICOM, Kenwood, and there are some lower end models that they sell. Like there's a couple of the Yaesus I would like to have that don't have all the bells and whistles, and they'd be in the $100 to $200 range for a nice handy talkie. Also, to get the latest software for these radios, if you're looking at a TID radio, you're probably going to want to buy the latest model, because they learn things from having these tested in videos, sending them to more serious YouTubers that actually do the spectral tests on these things and give them feedback. It does seem as though TID Radio takes that information and improves their product and makes better radios, and it shows up in later models. So if you're in the market for a TID radio, you can't decide which one seems right for you, I would always go for the newer one. All right, guys, so that is the TidRadio H3, the TD-H3. Not a bad little GMRS radio. This is what I'm going to use it for. I think that's what it's good for. And I do like the size and form factor compared to this chunky guy here. So we're going to get this on our regular family rotation as we're traveling and get some real use in it and see what we think. The TidRadio TD-H3 7.3.
Okay, folks, here's the deal. I'm at the bottom of the Grand Canyon. This is going to be a special one. We're way up this mountain. This is the operating station here. Kilo Echo Zero Victor India Mike Park to Park.
The traveler has come.
He was a huge, beastly, bulging man. Plates were from Kansas.